real wealth isn't the ultimate money. Real wealth is being in enough control of your life that you can go anywhere and speak what you believe to be true and not worry about any detractors and them attacking you or whatever it might be. That's what real wealth is. And I want for my students, because that's how we produce a nation of people that are very hard to control. And I want to produce the American nation that is very hard to control.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nikki Ballou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou, and boy, do we have an exciting guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is a true thought leader in his space. He has one of the largest Instagram channels seeking to educate the next generation in the truth as to what's going on in the world. His channel's called Cubs to Bears. He's the author of many best-selling and super cool and super informative books. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Brett Pike. Welcome to the show, Brett.
Yeah, Nikki, thanks for having me. And that's, I love the enthusiasm with the intro. It gets me fired up.
Awesome. So, Brett, the folks who listen to this show are entrepreneurs. They're the men and women who I believe are society's greatest heroes, except for the people in law enforcement and the military who get to keep the rest of us free with their sacrifices. But they're the ones who go out there, make their dreams come alive, and they listen to this show not because of me, man. I'm here every week. They listen to the show because of you. They want to learn from you. They want to be able to apply what you have to say in their own lives. But before they can do that, they got to warm up to you, man. They got to get to know you a little bit. So tell us your backstory. How'd you get to be the great Brett Pike?
Yeah, well, now I'm known as being the homeschool guy, and I'm known a lot for my historical videos where I really peel back the lies that we've been fed and talk about some true things with history. But I guess if I was talking about my backstory and how I got here, there was really never anything quote unquote special about me. And I went to school and I got average grades and I kind of took the systems path. As I tell my students, I was exactly what the system told me I was supposed to be. So I signed on the dotted line. I took out the college loans without really knowing even what that meant or, the ramifications of that. And I went to college and got drunk and chased girls. And that is the system's path, by the way. They might tell you you're not supposed to be doing that. No, that's the exact path with the culture that they send young people down. And then around my junior year of college, I was like, I'm about to be, I majored in education, history education. So I was like, I'm about to be in charge of these young people. I should probably take myself somewhat seriously. So I said, all right, my junior year, I'm going to do that. And I stopped watching ESPN all the time, which I grew up. That's what I did. I was a kid. And I said, all right, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my school seriously, and I'm going to watch Fox News and CNN. And by the end of this semester, I'll really know how the world works because I'll get both sides, talk about being young and naive. So I did that semester, and my grades completely shot up, and I graduated. And I remember, I graduated, then I went to my master's program. I majored in special education. I graduated from that program with a 4.0 GPA. I got the award for the top student in the entire program. And I remember graduating and thinking, I don't think I really know anything about the world. And right around that time, around 2015, I started going through this awakening. And I was a historian, and I remember my buddy told me, hey, there's this guy, Richard Grove. He does the Peace Revolution podcast. And a lot of the history that we've learned is completely wrong. And I thought my friend was an idiot, and I set out to prove that Richard Grove was an idiot. And then after about a week of digging into things, Richard Grove proved to me that I, in fact, was an idiot. And luckily enough, I don't know if it's my parents' love or that I just felt secure enough in who I am, but I was able to accept that and basically throw out all of my degrees and all of my status and everything that I thought I knew. And I really started at square one. And I really started to look into everything. And what I learned is, and what I came to the realization is that there had been a kind of matrix, as people put it, built around me, right? Built around all of us. And if I was going to learn how the world really worked, the first thing I had to do was examine my own process of thinking. How did I get to this point where I was this college graduate, 4.0, blah, 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 and come to the realization, wow, what you learned was nonsense. So I had to restructure my mind and develop something called what I like to call intellectual self-defense, which is really the process of only accepting things as true once you've proven them to yourself. And we could get into how to prove them to yourself. So I went through that process, and then I said, well, I was this education major. I was just getting into the school system. And I said, you know what? I need to get into what's wrong with the school system. I need to figure out what is the awakening involving this. And I started to come across some really great minds. Like every parent should read John Taylor Gatto, Dumbing Us Down, Weapons of Mass Instruction, Dorothy Sayers, The Lost Tools of Learning, and then Maria Montessori and Charlotte Mason, and all of these amazing minds in the field of education that we learned nothing about. Bachelor's program, master's program. They didn't even teach us that these things existed, which is kind of crazy. And I went through that awakening, and one thing led to another. And before you know it, I'm doing parent consultations, showing them how I would set up their homeschool if, their kid were my kid. And I got a lot of traction there. And one thing just led to another. I said, you know what? I could only meet with people, 8 times a day, really. You're doing these 1-hour meetings or whatever. I said, you know what? I'll set up a group. And I set up a group. It was $10 a month to join at first, where I would just coach any parent that wanted coaching. And that kind of took off, and my books took off. And what started as that ultimately became the Classical Learner Homeschool Company. And now we have been building out a full K-12 curriculum. We're teaching real history. We're teaching the Bill of Rights. We're teaching U.S. civics. We're teaching financial literacy. We're teaching entrepreneurship. We're teaching marketing. We're teaching all the things that really matter, that empower young people to become the adults that they want to become and their parents want to see them become. And I have to pinch myself because, sometimes I look around and say, how did I get here? But now I have a really thriving business, and I am making an impact on a lot of young people. And we're going to see the fruit of that bear in the future.
So I got goosebumps listening to you, man. So listen, brother, I want to get involved. I got my own business and I'm doing my own thing, but I want to help you do this. This is a cause near and dear to my heart. So when my kids were little, me and their mom got separated, but I decided to write a series of books. I only published one of them, but and I've written 11 other books in business and politics, but I don't know if you can read this. It says, Kathy Capitalist and Johnny Jobmaker, the video game company. So these are two people teaching like 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, basically about capitalism, because I thought that all the books that were being put out there were teaching kids to be soft-minded little socialists, right? I wrote this for my 2 kids, so I would read this to them at night so they'd have something to read. If I'd have known about you back in the day, because my kids are teenagers now, I would have bought all your books and I'd read them to you. But, this was what it's all about, right? So I wrote this about Kathy Capitalist and Johnny Jobmaker. Kathy and Johnny are 2 characters created by a father of 2 young boys under the age of 6 who was searching for stories to help teach his kids about free enterprise, dreaming big, and going for it. Because I think that's super important that people know who you are. And man, your company should be teaching every kid in America and every kid all around the world about this, because the powers that be are not interested in raising free, independent, sovereign-minded children. They're interested in raising good Prussian-style automatons and robots. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, well, I think you nailed it. And the system, by the way, I love that you wrote that book for your kids because it touches close to home. Like I started writing my books because I was sitting there and I said, I can't, my son needs good things to read. I need to start writing some books. So that's funny that you kind of went through that same journey. But yeah, the public school system is, and you could get into the history of this, right, with the Rockefellers and everything, but the public school system is designed to trap people in the rat race, right? It's designed to raise people who only do the work that's assigned to them and they never pursue their own interests. And they read what's in the textbook and they regurgitate what's in the textbook. They regurgitate what their teacher tells them. And if they could repeat that on a standardized test, they could fill in the bubbles, then they get a good grade. So their self-esteem comes from the teacher. And now you're the smart kids, right? You're the smart kids who are able to repeat what the teacher said, and you get good grades. And now you get to go into $200,000 of debt to go to college and ultimately get a job that starts at $40,000 a year. And by the time you have your job, your car, your mortgage, and you realize the difference between assets and liabilities, you're going to have dug yourself a pretty big hole. Yeah. And that's really what the system does. And the good thing about that is any parent who gives their child a different education actually not only teaches them the right thing, but you give your child a massive advantage over all of their peers who were in the public school system, who don't know anything about entrepreneurship, who, even worse than that, not knowing about entrepreneurship, the desire, the will, the life force that makes people follow their own interest and take action, right? Public school kids just don't have that. The only thing they know is, oh, well, you get a job and you go where you're told to go, when you're told to go there, and you do what you're told to do when you're told to be there, right? Whereas, I mean, these homeschool kids, I have a 13-year-old homeschool student. She owns a dog walking business. When she started out, she said, oh, I'm walking dogs. I said, that's great. I came back next semester, 13 years old, and I said, how's the dog walking business going? She goes, oh, I'm not walking dogs anymore. Oh, you didn't want to do that anymore? She's like, yeah, I didn't want to walk the dogs, so I hired my friends. I said, oh, they're walking the dogs for you? She goes, yeah. How many friends are walking dogs for you? 10. She's 13 years old, and she has 10 employees. And now she is incorporating, and she's looking to buy her first property that she wants to rent out, and she wants to become a real estate owner at the ripe age of 13. I have another student that has published 3 books, and I actually hired her, and I just paid her. And now she put together a course on becoming a published author through Amazon KDP that's available to all of our members. So you see the difference between the children that are coming through the system and the children that are homeschooled. And I mean, I get to see it every day, but anyone who has seen what I've seen would never think of doing anything other than self-educating their kids, because you just give them such an advantage over their peers. It's really night and day.
Amen, man. Amen. Amen. God bless you. So, let's get into the history of the public education system and the Rockefellers, because I think people ought to hear that. And then let's get into specifically the steps that you took to start getting your books out there, to create your company, and to build your brand, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, the history of American education is really crazy, like to the point where you think, you can't make it up. Like, it's just so. In the early 1800s, you had the Napoleonic Wars, right? So if you want to get to the history of American education, you have to go back to the Napoleonic Wars. And Napoleon wiped the floor with Prussia to the point where their soldiers disobeyed orders, turned, and ran away. So after that happens, the Prussian government, monarch of Prussia, he pulls in the top social engineers of the day, and he says, I need you to find a way to make sure this never happens again. We can't have our soldiers disobeying orders, turning and running away. We can't have an empire this way. So they come up with, all right, well, we can do it with the education system. He likes the idea. So they completely revolutionized their education system with the purpose in mind of producing a population that is obedient to authority.
Yeah.
And the education, the system that they came up with was 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, teachers trained by the state with state certification, 45-minute blocks, bells, raising your hand to go to the bathroom. The system they came up with is the system that you see all over the world today. So you say, well, how can that be? Well, here's how. So then you get the early 1900s and you have Rockefeller. And Rockefeller's getting a lot of bad press and the public's starting to turn against Rockefeller. And he has a similar thought to Prussia, where he says, you know what? How do I start to manipulate the population so that I don't have this problem, my heirs don't have this problem? And he comes up with, well, we can do it through the education system. So he starts the General Education Board, and ultimately they would put $180 million into the project, early 1900s. This was a tremendous amount of money, and it really went a long way, because if you read the book Propaganda by Edward Bernays, what they did was they offered grants, $10,000 grants, a lot of money at the time, to put up a building at the time, $10,000 grants to any school district or any place in the country that wanted to implement the Rockefeller curriculum. So these things went like hotcakes. Obviously, they marketed it as, hey, we have this state-of-the-art curriculum. You get $10,000. It's a lot of money at the time. And county after county, district after district is taking this Rockefeller money. And when Rockefeller was trying to figure out, well, you know, what curriculum do I want? He had his people do a lot of research. And ultimately, they came back to him with this system that he absolutely loved. They came back to him with the Prussian education model. And that's why you see it all over the world today. So the Prussian education system, due to Rockefeller grants, would spread all throughout the United States of America and ultimately all throughout the world. And then if you really track the activities of the Rockefeller Foundation, it starts to have a fingerprint. So for example, in 1910, there was something called the Flexner Report. People want to talk about what happened in 2020 with COVID. Well, in 1910, you had the Flexner Report done by this physician, Abraham Flexner, but he was funded by the Carnegie Endowment in coordination with the Rockefeller Foundation. And then what they did was the Rockefeller Foundation took this Flexner Report to state licensing boards in all 50 states. And basically what they did was they, by the way, in coordination with the American Medical Association was part of this report. And what they did was they got these state licensure boards to give the American Medical Association authority over college accreditation status. This is a big deal because within 20 years, half of the medical schools in the United States of America had shut down because every college that continued to teach homeopathy, naturopathy, and natural medicine lost their accreditation status and they lost their funding. So by doing this, they guaranteed that they would control how all medical doctors were trained from, about the year 1910 all the way through present. So when you talk to your doctor and they don't know anything about nutrition and they don't care what you put in your body, that's because we have over a century of doctors being trained by the people who wanted this to be the case. And it's kind of a fingerprint and a modus operatus of how they function. So in the 1950s, you want to talk about capitalism, communism. In the 1950s, you had the Congressional Reese Committee, and there was this investigator, amazing man, Congressman Norman Dodd. By the way, if you ever want to have an interview that will blow your mind,
yes,
go on YouTube and type in Norman Dodd interview with G. Edward Griffin. And what Norman Dodd had to say before he died will absolutely shatter the way you view the world. So Norman Dodd is in the Reese Committee. He's doing this investigation. And they get access to the internal papers, the corporate minutes of the Rockefeller Foundation, the Carnegie Endowment, and these different endowments, right? And the function of the Reese Committee was to examine tax-exempt foundations and find out if they were involved in un-American activities. That was their goal. And in order to do this, they had to define un-American activities. So they defined un-American activities as attempts to change the laws of the United States of America not intended by the Constitution. Isn't that an interesting definition for what we see today? We could sure use that today.
We sure could.
They find out, they go back 1910, 15 era. One, they found out that these foundations were actively trying to get America into World War I, which is that's interesting enough, right?
Yeah.
And then they find out that after World War I, these foundations wanted to make sure that America, because before World War I, America was isolationist and people were very anti-war. Like it goes back to George Washington. This was his advice, right? So they wanted to make sure that America would never be anti-war again. So they decided the best way to do that would be to fundamentally alter Americans' understanding of their own history. And to do that, they would have to change the way people learn history. So instead of the American Medical Association, they took over the American Historical Association. And according to Norman Dodd, they handpicked 20 college students throughout the country. They flew them to London. They gave them and in total, $400,000 in college grants, a lot of money at the time. And 15 years later, these college students made up the governing board of the American Historical Association. And at that time, the American Historical Association controlled what went into history textbooks and the training of history teachers, the same fingerprint, right? And they have used taking over how our teachers are trained and what our teachers believe and the textbooks to take over the hive mind of the people of the United States of America. And that's why you see so many NPCs to this very day. And this is why I tell people, when it does make sense to wake people up, but it doesn't make sense to allow your enemies to continue to indoctrinate your children, because you don't have to wake someone up if they never went to sleep in the first place.
So true. So true. Back during the lockdown era, I interviewed a man named Kent Clisby. He wrote a book called Willing Accomplices. Kent was a former CIA case officer, and he wrote this book 2012, I think, it came out. And when he came on my show, he was really cautious and careful, because he said the fact that he wrote this book cost him his position, and he got blackballed from getting other jobs, and he didn't want that to happen because he was just building back his business. And he said that, let's just be careful how we push what's talking in the book. In the book, he talks about how the American education system, news media, and Hollywood had been penetrated by progressives, willing accomplices who had been under the control of Soviet communists. And there was a man named Willie Munzenberg, who was an associate of Vladimir Lenin's, that Lenin sent to America to weaken the U.S. from within. He called America the main adversary to global communism becoming a reality. And they went on a multi-decade effort to turn Americans against their institutions, against the founding documents of America. So what's being taught in schools is now overtly anti-American. What's being seen in movies is overtly anti-American. And the traditional media has also been overtly anti-American as well. And I find it very, very gratifying that someone like you is bringing not the exact same message, but similar messages out into the public consciousness. And I'm wondering what your thoughts and comments are on Kent Clisby's thesis.
Yeah, well, I haven't read his work, although I did write the book down here. So now I plan on reading it, because reading is a superpower, and it's something that I can't recommend enough for all people to do.
I agree.
But if you go back to the 1970s, they had the Congressional Church Committee, and it absolutely agrees with or supports everything in his conclusion, right? Because people think of the Congressional Church Committee and they know about Operation Mockingbird, right?
Yeah.
The CIA admitted in the Church Committee that they had spent billions of dollars adjusted for inflation, basically bribing media, essentially, right? And I actually wrote a children's book about that called Operation Mockingbird. And
they destroyed all the files about it too. So there's no files on Operation Mockingbird left anywhere.
But it happened, and Operation Mockingbird and the Church Committee. And what a lot of people miss in the Church Committee report is it went way beyond the media. It went into talk about the tax-exempt foundations again, how the CIA leveraged and used tax-exempt foundations like the Rockefeller Foundation by name, by the way. And the Rockefeller is hand in hand with the CIA. It gets into, if you look at the Council on Foreign Relations, right? If you want to be someone who climbs the ladder into what people call the deep state or the American bureaucracies, really for the last 100 years, you come through the Council on Foreign Relations. Well, who was the chair of the Council on Foreign Relations for 50, 60 years? It was Rockefeller, right? So anyway, the CIA used the Rockefeller Foundation and other small foundations to basically leverage grants to take over the university system. So there has been an all-front effort to infiltrate America's institutions, as you say, whether it be the institution of media, whether it be the institution of education. And the goal behind that is to control the minds of the American people. And by creating institutional rot, you not only achieve the objective of turning America's institutions against the American people, but the double objective of then turning the American people against their own institutions, which that's the other side of the coin that is just as dangerous and people don't realize. Like, I hate that the Department of Education and American education is terrible and that I'm even needed, because we should have great institutions. And we see the things that the CIA does and people say, oh, I want to see the CIA go away. But if the CIA goes away, now we don't have a defense against Mossad, against MI6, against Russia, against all these other agencies in other countries all around the world who are undoubtedly running their own psychological operations. Yeah. And we can't have psychological operations being ran on us with no defense against that. So it really is a double-edged sword where the communists have infiltrated American institutions, rotted them from the inside out. The institutions turn against the American people turn against the institution, and the end result of that is destruction. And that's why getting a hold of the American mind again, especially and starting from a young age, is so important, so that the American people are awake to what has gone on, and then we could actually rebuild these institutions in an American image, in a pro-American image, which could help create that strong American nation that ultimately we need.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So your brand, Brett, is a conviction-driven brand. You know, in the 1980s, when I came of age, because I'm 57 years old, I'm someone who's been around the block a couple times, there were some politicians that seemed to be speaking from the heart. They weren't the typical full of crap politicians that the world is so full of these days. And two of them in particular were politicians I greatly admired. One was Margaret Thatcher of Great Britain. The other was Ronald Reagan of the United States. And they were conviction-driven politicians. I got the sense when they spoke that they were speaking the truth as they saw it from the heart. And that's what you did and how you built your brand. You saw a problem and you've been passionately speaking out against it from the heart. And that's become your brand. That has been what has turned your company, right, the Classical Learner Homeschool Company, into a well-recognized brand, and has allowed you to sell a lot of books and get a lot of clients. And I'm wondering if you can talk about that from a brand building point of view.
Yeah, well, I kind of laugh about that because it would probably make more sense for me to not let all my thoughts be known and be very opaque, right? But I don't want to live that way. And my company, I'd rather it be an extension of me and my heart and soul. And that's when I tell people that you see all these soulless corporations, these Fortune 500 corporations, it's because the founders are long gone. And they brought in, what happens with these corporations is they go public, and BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard start to buy stocks, and they get control over the boards. And then the boards bring in a Harvard CPA who's trained in maximizing the profit of these corporations. And that's why they're soulless. They'll push the transgender thing. They'll push whatever they have to push in order to keep the money flowing, because that's all that really matters to the corporations. But the beautiful thing about startups that don't go public and are owned by the founders, which, by the way, there are some big ones like Hobby Lobby is still owned by the founder, and it's this multi-billion-dollar corporation. Green but it family. Is a reflection of, like them or not, it's a reflection of that family and their beliefs, and that's a beautiful thing.
It is.
Right? The same is true with Bass Pro Shop. That's a reflection of their founder and that family and their beliefs. Well, classical
I love Bass Pro Shop, man. I shop there all the time.
Yeah, and it's still the man who started it still runs it, and it's beautiful, and they don't go public. And Classical Learner is an extension of me and my heart and my soul. And my whole approach has been, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say what I believe is true. And through that, I'm going to resonate with a lot of people who recognize truth, are looking for truth, and are starving for truth. And that will be what our brand is. Our brand will be wherever the truth takes us. And through doing that, we can get a very loyal base. And then through that loyal base, we can continue to build out and really offer things to everyone, because we're just getting started. So I'm out there. I say what I believe. And a lot of people love that. A lot of people hate that and threaten to hurt me. And that's okay, too, because that's what living is. That's the fight. That's what men need to do. And it's an honor of my life to be able to do it. And I guess that's what my brand would be.
Well, I wonder if you can expand on that and extrapolate on that in terms of advice you give for the entrepreneurs listening to this show who are looking to leverage their own personal brand in a positive way to move their business forward. Because I obviously talk about that in my business. That's what my business is about, really creating a powerful thought leader brand, becoming an Elon Musk of your space, or a Steve Jobs of your space, or a Brett Pike of your space. And I would like to hear your thoughts and maybe think about this, because maybe you haven't really thought about this for other people before. But how can a business owner, an entrepreneur, a founder do in their business what you're doing in yours?
Well, people are afraid to say a lot of things in public, but the truth is that whatever you believe as a founder is going to resonate with a lot of people. And it's better to find your tribe than to try to please everyone. Because when you try to please everyone, a lot of times you please no one.
Yes.
And so many people worry about, who doesn't like them and who hates them, but I don't care about those people. They're not my clients anyway. They don't want anything to do with me, and that's fine. So to me, I mean, if you're building a brand, you want it to be truthful, because trust is the number one asset between any company and a client. And the worst thing you could do as a company is erode that trust. And when you build it up and your clients know that you're looking out for them, they'll come back to you time and time again. And we all know that's intrinsically true. We've all dealt with companies that don't do the right thing by us, and I don't want anything to do with them. And we've dealt with companies that, wow, they really stepped up and did the right thing. Well, you're probably going to go to them again and again and again. And then once you have that message and you know what it is, you just want to beat it like a dead horse. And you can't feel bad about getting it out there and saying it again and again and again and again and finding 1,000 different creative ways to do it. Because once you start building that brand, marketing and sales is really the tip of the spear, right? I mean, they solve a lot of problems, marketing, sales, and revenue. So
Of all
Be
sales
truthful.
solves all problems, brother. Sales solves all problems.
It sure does. It solves a lot of problems, and it gives you a lot of flexibility to do more of the things you want to do and start to build out systems, right? Because when a lot of people start business, for most people, when they start a business, you're really the everything man.
Yep.
And what you want to do is be the everything man, but then as you start to build out, you want to start to build systems so the business becomes bigger than you, and you start to step out of some of those roles, and the business starts to operate almost as a machine. And then you can be there to oil the machine, to guide the machine, to make sure the machine is pointed at the right focus. And then it becomes that system, and you can build it into something more. And it also allows you to step back and has a lot of benefits in your own life. So, you start out as that everything man, and ultimately you want to become that system. A good book to read about that is the 4-Hour Work Week, which is all about building business systems, because you really want things to operate where if you died, right? Basically, you want to eventually get to the place where even if you died, it is such an efficient system that machine keeps operating. So that's where you want to get.
Yeah, that's very true. I agree with everything you said. Whatever you believe as a founder is what will resonate with your tribe. And your tribe are the people who immediately and instantly resonate with the truth that you have the courage, the balls to speak. And trust is the number one asset between any company and its clients. 100%. You have to have that trust. Without that, you're toast. There's nothing about your business that's going to last if you cannot create trust. I mean, look at Grant Cardone right now. He built a wonderful big brand for himself, but trust isn't there. And this public spat he's having with Gary Brecka, the man who helped Dana White get his health back, is killing him, is absolutely killing Grant, and that's a horrible thing. So make sure that you have trust and understand that marketing, sales, and revenue will solve, a lot of problems is the way you said it, but I'll say they solve all problems, especially sales. Revenue, sales, dollars in the door solves all problems. And then that's what's going to allow you to build systems to scale. That's what allows you to have your business become a machine. And then you can run that machine, as you put it. I mean, you said a lot more than that, but you can run that machine. And you spoke of the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. I think that's a good book. I also think the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber talks about how to turn your business into a system as well. And I think that's a fantastic book too. But you're dropping gold here, Brett. You're dropping gold for our people. I think that's supercalifragilistic. Awesome.
I think you're dropping gold. The E-Myth Revisited. How do you spell E-Myth?
E and then myth, M-Y-T-H.
Okay, gotcha.
Sent from the entrepreneur myth, the E-Myth Revisited. Michael Gerber, like Gerber Foods or Gerber Knives, depending on whether you have kids or you're a knife aficionado. Both spelt the same way. Me, I've had kids and I'm a knife aficionado. So there you go. And, I like that you spoke earlier about it's the honor of your life as a man. I also have another podcast for men. It's called the Sovereign Man Podcast, and it's all about how a man can become sovereign in today's world. Brett, would you come on that show too? I'd love to interview you from the perspective of a man of honor. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, well, I'd love to talk about that because, really, when I talk about my homeschool company, what I'm trying to do is to raise honorable young men and women who are the rugged individualists that have complete sovereignty over their lives.
Then you got to come on that show, bro. We got to have a whole talk just about that.
And that's why I do so much, or that's why I teach courses on entrepreneurship and marketing and financial literacy, because I really want to, my goal isn't even for them to, when they become adults, to be able to do this stuff. My real goal is for by the time they're done with me, when they're going off, they graduate high school, I want them to already have achieved independence. I want them to be financially independent. I want them to have the literacy to know how to manage it. And a lot of that gets into the way you choose to live your life. Like, for example, I don't just talk about this stuff. I don't have any debt. for example, because I don't live my life. I don't want to be controlled. And I remember during COVID how they tried to leverage people's debt against them. They said, oh, I know you have to pay your mortgage. Well, then you better wear a mask and you better get a shot or you're not going to be able to do your job and you're not going to be able to pay your mortgage. And if you want to go to the grocery store to feed your family, well, you better put on the mask. Well, what I did, because at that time I'm still learning everything. I had my white picket fence house in one of the most affluent counties in the country, sold that house, moved across the country, said I would never be in mortgage debt or any other type of debt again because I will never be leveraged. And
Amen.
So I did that. I moved across the country. I have a homestead. I grow my own food, pear trees, plum trees, peach trees, cherry trees, apple trees, big garden. We have chickens. We produce I buy food still, but I'm capable of producing all my own food if I need to really ramp up. And my business took off. And because of that, I have a lot of control over my life. And that's why, a lot of people who are afraid to say certain things, especially like on the internet, I don't have that as much because I have structured my life in a way that allows me to be truly wealthy. And this is what I tell my students. Real wealth isn't the ultimate money. Real wealth is being in enough control of your life that you can go anywhere and speak what you believe to be true and not worry about any detractors and them attacking you or whatever it might be. That's what real wealth is. I want that for my students because that's how we produce a nation of people that are very hard to control. And I want to produce the American nation that is very hard to control.
Hard to control. That might be the right title for this podcast episode. Hard to control. The Brett Pike story, man. It's very powerful. Yeah, would you please come on that show as well? Let's delve into that subject for men because that show is a show that's directed at men and is all about teaching them these principles. And there's a lot of men with families that listen to that show, so it could be a good place for you to get a little bit of visibility as well. I'd love to have you on that show to have that conversation too.
Yeah, I'd love to come on there. And if I could elaborate even a little bit more on that philosophy. So one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm teaching a weekly live entrepreneurship class. I teach the one for elementary school, which is different, and I teach the one for secondary, for middle school and high school. And one of the things I'm teaching the students right now is how to accumulate assets without going into debt and without spending thousands of dollars, because I teach that philosophy that you could control your life without going into debt. But a lot of people have this idea in their mind that if you're going to start a business, you have to spend thousands of dollars. Well, for my elementary school students, I teach them it's easy as getting a used lawnmower, right? And you could start a little elementary school business. And for the secondary students, we're learning about asset accumulation. So, for example, you could publish books through Amazon KDP, and you could basically do that for no money. And then you don't have to deal with the physical product. You don't have to do the shipping. You just market your book. People buy your books and you make money on that. And you do it without laying down really any money at all. Like, sure, you could pay for an editor and an illustrator, but even if you do that, it's really not a debilitating cost. No. There are all types of methods available to us because the technology is so good. So obviously everyone knows there's drop shipping. There's print on demand. You could build out your own brand, really. You could build out an entire brand, a clothing company, whatever you want, by making your designs on Canva, especially if you're a talented artist. And I have my students doing this right now. So you have all types of print on demand companies. There's so many good companies to partner with and print on demand. You have all types of drop shipping companies. Then you have affiliate opportunities where you could join the Amazon affiliate program and whatever you're interested in selling, like your niche, your interest, right? I mean, there's everything on Amazon and you can get paid for basically selling that, and that affiliate account becomes your asset. Or there are tons of companies, like for example, we talked about business systems. One of the things I'm doing with Classical Learner right now, it actually is going to drop on Monday, not to all of the public. We're dropping it to select members on Monday, and then probably next month to all of our members, and then later on, maybe to the entirety of the public. But we have built out an affiliate program. And this affiliate program is going to allow our affiliates who join as our affiliates to sign people up to classical learner homeschool. And then when they sign someone up, they don't just get the initial fee for signing that person up, but every month that person they signed up remains in our program, they will be paid recurring commission. So they'll get part of that subscription cost. So if you sign up 500 people, now you have 500 people paying you a reoccurring subscription every month. So we learn, so that's something that my company's doing. But one of the things I teach my students is there's a lot of companies that operate that way. Like ClickFunnels pays reoccurring commissions for subscriptions that their affiliates sell. To this date, ClickFunnels has paid out $136 million to their affiliates who have gotten people to sign up to their service. So there are all these avenues in which you can get your first assets under your control so that you can start bringing in revenue. And then what I point out to my students is, but you want your own clothing company and you want to make your own clothes, right? You don't want to do the drop shipping, right? So what I did with my publishing of books is I started on Amazon KDP, and I did that for basically no money. I sold tens of thousands of books, and then I took the revenue from that, and then I invested tens of thousands of dollars and started my own publishing house with the revenue I got from the books. So now I had the money from the revenue. Rather than going into debt, I earned the money through no-cost assets. Then I took that money, I invested the big money into the publishing house. Now I have a publishing house where we are printing and doing all the stuff with our own books, and now our margins are better and all of that. Well, anyone could do that. You could start a clothing company, print on demand, build up your brand, and then once you have the revenue from that, then you could start the more physical, I'm going to have a warehouse, we're going to make our own stuff type of thing. And by doing and using these type of strategies, you can try things out. You could find out how to build a brand and bring in revenue without taking that risk on, other than your time, your effort. Like, all right, you risk your time, it doesn't work out. Well, that sometimes it happens. You do something else. Yeah. But you put in that time, and then if you could bring in the revenue, you can just start to build up that business and those systems. So it's something I'm very passionate about, and I'm really big into teaching people how to accumulate no-cost assets.
Well, that could be a whole separate interview that we could do, because I'm loving this conversation. Unfortunately, I booked it for an hour, and I booked another call right after. But I'm fascinated and interested myself. I'm a brilliant writer. Okay, so you don't know this about me, Brett, and we ought to get to know each other better, because I want to be very helpful to you, and I think we can help each other, and I want to help you, just period. I want to help you get more students, more clients, and I don't care if I get anything from it or not, but if we can do some affiliate type of stuff, I'd like to do that too. So I'm a podcast guest through a brand called Podmatch. They have a AI-driven matching service for guests and hosts. I've been a guest on 730 podcasts since May of 2022. Okay. Wow. 730. They have an affiliate program. I've sent a whole bunch of people there, and they send me a couple $100s a month from the affiliates that I've gotten for them. And it's a small monthly fee they charge, like $50 a month. So I've given them 20, 30, 40 people that way. I've written and published 11 books. 2 of them were with a pretty famous guy in the political space, and they sold a lot. But on my own, I haven't been very good at selling books. Just the people I know, I put them on Amazon. Whoever buys them listens to me on a show, whatever. I'm fascinated in how you sold books. I asked God, because I'm a Christian, to bring me someone who is able to educate me on how I can sell my books. And I'm a good writer. I mean, I have this book I published. I actually wrote 8 others that I never got the illustrators to do anything with. So I want to get that going in another way. This is a book I wrote with a famous guy. Donald Trump endorsed it in Truth Social. It's called The Great Patriot Buy Cop Book. It's a list of America's 123 most patriotic companies that are anti-woke. This is my first book called Finish Line Thinking, How to Think and Win Like a Champion. I used to train with Olympic gold medal athletes, world record holders. My girlfriend is a 3-time Guinness World Record holder. This is a download on the methodology of how to think like an Olympic gold medalist in life and in business. This is a book on podcast guesting. I've been on 730 shows, so I talk about how to get booked and get paid. I got 11 books I've written. I want to sell them. It's been my dream since I was a kid to be selling 1 million books. I read over 100 books a year. I've read almost 5,000 books in my lifetime. And I'm talking paper books, not listening to crap on Audible. You know, this is my real bookcase. There are 5,000 books in my house. There's a Bilu library. How many people do you know who have 5,000 books in their house that they can say they've read 4,000 or 5,000 books? I bet you not a whole lot, right? So I'd like your help. I want to help you. I'm brilliant at promotion. I'm the greatest salesman and marketer because I sell from the heart, and I don't care if people say no to me. I actually like no's. I like yeses. I like no's. So I'm really good at introducing people to ideas like yours. I want to get my 17-year-old son to come take your entrepreneurship class. If I can persuade him to do that, you know, hook me up. Let's get that done. And please, I'd like to learn from you. If you have a course that you'll take adults on, I want to learn how to sell my books because I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, well, I'll be happy to help you behind the scenes or with the course with selling your books. And really, it's just getting them in front of people consistently. If you get them in front of people consistently, then people will start buying the books. And you can do that. In my opinion, the best way to do that is with short form video. So whether that's short form video on TikTok related to the books, the topics of the book, short form video, really you just make it for TikTok, and you do a TikTok and Instagram, right? And
Sure.
You use those as basically your book selling platforms. And then you could also leverage strategy. Like one of the things I'm getting into, because I've been very successful in selling the books on my own, but TikTok's pretty cool because they have the TikTok shop, right?
Okay.
So one of the things I'm looking to do, I've just had a few other projects, and then my plan is to have this objective completed before September. So I ideally over the summer, but definitely by September, I'll have this objective completed where right now I listed my books for sale on TikTok shop. And now all I have to do, because it's pretty cool, it makes it so any creator on TikTok could link to the products on there. So your book's on there, a creator on TikTok could link to that product. They're making their videos they make anyway with their audience that's already there anyway. And then anyone in their audience who buys that book, they get a commission on, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
They're going to sell, they should get commissions. So one of my goals by September is to really start spreading awareness that the books are on there and getting some of those influencers to start pushing them so I don't have to push them myself as much. And I think that's something you can do with your books, you know, especially a book that was endorsed by Trump. You could really get people behind that. And even short videos, just repetitive, like real short and easy on TikTok. Did you hear about this book that was endorsed by President Trump? Or you hang the sheet up there, hey, look, President Trump just endorsed this book. And then you just pop out, and I wrote it, and I'd love for you to read it, and just cut the video. And then that works because all the liberals out there will be like, fuck you. And they don't realize that they're just helping your algorithm, right? I mean, they're just getting it out there for you because they're not that smart. And by the way, always ignore people you don't like because that's how you actually beat them because it kills their algorithm.
I know, man. I know. I do that anyways. It's a great idea. Joe Rogan says he ignores the haters, and that's a superpower for him. And I'm like, okay, it's good enough for Joe Rogan. It's good enough for me.
Nikki, are the 7 books you haven't published kids books? Oh, we got to talk. All right, we got to talk. All right. So
100%.
We'll talk about that, and then. So I'm rolling out.
I'm not kidding with you, Brett, when I say I got a lot of flaws, but my superpowers, reading, writing, I've written a 150-page book in 28 days, okay? And it's grammatically correct, complete sentences, paragraphs, ideas you can absorb, and exciting. That's my skill set. On a podcast, I'm a rock star. On stage, I'm mesmerizing, man. Tony Robbins ain't got nothing on me. But how to market, how to sell, I'm all steak. I just don't have the sizzle. I got to learn the sizzle. This year, I prayed to God and I said, God, help me learn sizzle. I need to learn Sizzle, baby.
Well, let me run this by you. So I'm rolling out this affiliate program, and one of the things it's empowering me to do is to basically make Homeschools Connected a hosting platform for people I partner with, that they can produce their own internet courses and make them available to my students and make them available to whoever. So I have some big names I'm partnering with that you're going to see come out over the next few months that I'm really excited about. They're producing courses for us. But if you're interested, I would love for you to produce a homeschool course on entrepreneurship or whatever topic you think would be really cool that you would like to see the next generation learn about.
Podcast guesting. Donald Trump is president today because he went on independent podcasts as a guest. It is estimated that he netted 4 million votes. Kamala Harris won 74 million votes. Donald Trump won just under 78 million votes. The margin of victory was his appearance as a guest on podcasts. I could talk about that powerfully, and kids will be into that. Podcasting itself is also powerful. Selling as an act of love and service rather than being afraid to sell, I don't want to bother people. And I want to teach kids about the power of picking up the phone and talking to people and stop just messaging people. You know what I mean? Teaching them etiquette, teaching young boys how to look a man in the eye and shake his hand, that sort of thing. I'd be all over doing stuff like that, man.
So if you wanted to teach a course like that, you could build out the course, and then in all your podcasting and everything you do, you could promote it.
I'll do it.
And anyone who signs up to Homeschools Connected to take your course, you would get that reoccurring commission from as long as they remain in the platform. And the reason it's a pretty cool model is so you get people to sign up because they follow you and they want their kids to take your course on podcasting or whatever it might be. So then they sign their kids up, but when they sign them up, they get access to not just your course, they get access to all of my courses. They get access to the live classes we run 5 days a week. They get access to all of our educational materials. So you don't just you're not really just selling the one course that they're taking. You're really selling the whole program. So they sign up, they take your course. Most people sell a course, one-time deal. Well, no, they stay in the program. They have incentive to stay until their kid graduates, maybe for 15 years, and you get paid reoccurring commissions as long as they stay.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I'd be happy to do that. I think that's cool. Jordan Peterson's got a similar model with his Peterson University, which I've signed up for to take some of his courses. They're pretty fun. I want to help the next generation. This isn't going to be my main business, I don't believe, but it's a way to help the next generation, and I'm all for making money when I help people. So I think that's important. We should get compensated for our efforts, 100%. But listen, Brett, you are awesome and amazing. If someone wants to find out about Classical Learner and sign up for your programs for themselves, for their kids, what's the best way?
Yes, so www.classicallearner.com. That's classicallearner.com. And it's Homeschools Connected. So right now, at the present moment, it's $25 a month. And by the way, if you get in now, that's grandfathered. So I don't ever raise the price on my existing members. $25 a month, you get access to the live classes we run 5 days a week, to all of the pre-recorded courses we have, to all of the lesson plans, to all of the unit studies. And that's for your whole family. That's not for one individual child. So that's classicallearner.com. If you're interested in my books, when you get there, just click on where it says books, and that will take you to Classical Learner Publishing, or books.classicallearner.com. That will take you to, and you get all the books there. So www.classicallearner.com, Homeschools Connected. Check us out. Classical Learner and Cubs to Bears on everywhere, all over the internet. And if you have any questions, go to the website, shoot us an email. That will go to my director page, and she will help you get set up with anything.
You know what? We'll make sure that we put that out there. I'll sign up for an account with you for my kid for sure. And I'd like to learn how to go hardcore on marketing my books. This short form video thing is a good idea. I don't know anything about how to create short form. I hired somebody to do my speaking wheel, and they created some short form videos. but I need to find somebody it's going to be more cost effective, because that costs a lot of money to do that. And to do these videos in the way you're talking about on a daily basis and putting them out there, I need to make it more cost effective. So absolutely want to do that. So Brett, we end each episode by asking you, our guest expert, to share with us your top 3 expert action steps. These are your 3 best pieces of advice in bullet point form for my listener to take their life, their business, their mission and purpose to the next level. What say you?
Read. If I could go back and tell my 18-year-old self something, if I could only tell him one word, the word would be read. If I could say 2 words, or 3 words, I say, read, you dummy. My second piece of advice would be, you set aside, if you're working a job, right, and you want to build a business or do anything, you set aside 1 hour, mandatory, every night. And that hour, you work toward that aim. And even if you sit there for an hour looking at a wall, well, that was 1 hour you needed looking at that wall to think. And eventually those 1 hours will turn to full nights. And my last piece of advice would be that in everything you do, you work to be a little bit version of yourself every day, whether that's parenting, whether that's homesteading, whether that's as a businessman, whether that's as a man, whether that's as your physical, your health, everything you do, you work to be the best version of yourself. I like that samurai motto, right? That every day you wake up in the pursuit of perfection.
I like that. So I like that. Every day you wake up
with the pursuit of perfection.
Oh, that's so good.
And I also liked Kobe Bryant was an athlete I really respected.
Me too.
And I heard him give a talk one time where he said that every day he pursued perfection, knowing that he would never achieve it, but he knew that by pursuing it, he would be the best version of himself.
Yeah, that's good. Kobe Bryant is one of my favorite athletes of all time. He was taken of us far too soon. I have his book, Mamba Mentality. I have a few copies of it, actually. I bought 10 copies of it, and I gave it away to clients of mine back in the day. Before he died, that book was being sold as a remainder book, so you could buy them for $5 each. It's this big, thick coffee table type book. As soon as he died, all the remainder books were bought up in a day. There were no remaindered ones left, and the publisher just put out a whole bunch of copies of his book, a whole new printing at full price, and that got sold out too. It was pretty amazing. He was a great man and a great American. Back in 2008, during the Olympics, he was being interviewed by Chris Collinsworth, one of these woke sports reporters. And they asked him, Chris asked him, he said, don't you think it's old-fashioned to go out there and, represent your country and do a rah-rah-rah dance? I mean, aren't you past that, Kobe? Don't you think athletes should not do that and be so gung-ho and public about their country? And he just smiled calmly. And I'm sure in his head he said, "You stupid piece of crap." He said, "No, man, not me. I'm proud to be an American. It's an honor to represent the red, white, and blue. And it's something that I'm excited to do and looking forward to bringing home the gold for the good old US of A." And I just listened to him there and I said, you know what? In this day and age with a pampered athlete who spits on the country that gave him the opportunities to become great, it's a beautiful thing to listen to someone like Kobe Bryant. He reminded me of that football player. Oh my God, what's his name? The one who went to Afghanistan and got killed.
Pat Tillman.
Pat Tillman, the great Pat Tillman. That's right. Reminded me of Pat Tillman. And I just thought, Kobe Bryant, man, a great American. Brett Pike, it's an honor to have had you on the show. I'm looking forward to having you on the men's show as well. Looking forward to connecting with you to talk about some business things to do. I'd like to learn how to sell my books. I'm happy to participate in your affiliate program because I believe in what you're doing. I only become an affiliate of something that I truly, truly believe in with all my heart and soul, because it's not about the money for me. I'll take the money. Don't get me wrong. Glad to take the money. You should take the money. but I'm an affiliate with someone because I think they're great and they're doing great in the world. And I believe you're great and you're doing great in the world. God bless you, man.
Thanks for having me. God bless.
And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. To find out more about today's guest, the one and only Brett Pike, the founder of the Classical Learner Homeschool Company, go to the show notes at thethoughtleaderrevolution.com or wherever you happen to listen to this episode, be it iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Audible, Rumble, or what have you. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.